There we go. Oh, thank you very much. So, I've this is kind of this is my first talk on neurodivergent talk, whatever is the correct way to say it. So, please forgive anything that will improve over time. So, I've put this together and gone right. How am I going to make a path that makes a coherent story that other people want to listen to, other than stuff that's inside my head. So I've kind of gone, introduced myself, my journey into the world in tech. This is kind of generic stuff, unveiling the things I hide, which is the topic of this talk. We move into the superpowers within, embracing vulnerability, facing challenges, the importance of mentorship, concluding thoughts, and then questions and answers. So that's kind of the flow we're going to see here, and we're going to keep coming back to this screen in between each kind of subsection. So, um, how do you introduce yourself to a neurodivergent talk? I mean, there's lots of things that I am. I suppose a quick Google search, and these are the images that show up. And I've asked, well, a lot of there's two of these people that I don't know, which is really weird. And the middle line, the guys on each side, but the rest of the people I know for quite some time. We've got my family up the top. My son, bless him, he's passed now, and so I'm a special needs father, a bereaved father. I'm a technologist. I was a mature student. I work at Genesis, so I'm a security professional. I'm a project manager. I do lots of things, so I am lots of things. One of those small parts just happens to be that I have dyslexia, and recently discovered that a lot of my past behaviors are leaning towards that I most probably have ADHD, and that this is genetic. My own son has ADHD, so we've been involved in a lot of the his care. So, and he's 18 now, so we've been through a lot of the systems and a lot of the things that they're going, oh, you need to do this, so this is how you'd cope with these things. I've gone, oh, I kind of did that, and that's how that kind of evolved. So this is who I am, and I'm sure there are many other things that will be considered who I am as an introduction, but we can come back to this at any point if anybody has a question. Or if anybody wants to know who any of the people were, I can gladly tell you. A lot of them are in the GDG also, and thank you very much to GDG Glasgow for setting up this wonderful event. So my journey into the world of tech. I didn't land here until my 30s. So in school, I was very sporty. That would have been my life, was in the sporting world. So academics wasn't really didn't feature. So I suppose the dyslexia and ADHD didn't really show up because it wasn't an issue. Having a bundle of energy and being able to, keep having a big engine and keeping going for a long time in athletics and rugby was a bonus. And when you're good at sports, they tend to forgive a lot of the academic. If you're not doing so well, they kind of go, well, he'll be grand. He's good at sports. So that's how that kind of ran. So leaving school wasn't with not a fantastic leaving cert, as we call it in Ireland, A levels, I think, in the UK. Led me to different jobs that were just jobs of opportunity to make money rather than something, a career that was thought forward or was planned, or that was adequately put together. Or did I have a 2-year plan? No. 1-year plan? No. It was what's right in front of me. So I ended up working a lot with people, things that interested me at the time, working with a lot of people, with fixing things. I worked as a vacuum repairman, which was one of my favorite jobs. I got to drive around the country and visit people in their homes and take apart their expensive vacuum cleaner. And, I'd have the crack, as they say in Ireland, with them as I was repairing this machine. So I had that physical element to it, had that doing, and also that interaction with people, which I really thrived on. So using those things moving forward, using those aspects, looking at different areas I could work in, make a life in, led me down to having children. Then it was like, oh well. First I went. repairman, then barman, which again was the people element and the doing. It's very physical. You're moving fast. The remembering, there was not much reading and writing, which was fantastic for me because I didn't know at the time that the dyslexia was the reason for that, but that I could avoid having to read things. And I'll get to the initially. I'll tell you all about the issues with that one when we get to that bit. So when I finished it, when I became a barman, I was really enjoying it. Then we had children, and staying late at night isn't the optimal way to raise children. So I was like, all right, okay, what do I do? So I kind of had to think back and went, when I was in transition year, gap year, in I don't know what you call it in the UK, the fourth year when you're about 15, 16, and you go out to the workplace for a little bit. I worked as a cabinet maker, and I had the best time because I was out with a bunch of guys that I got on really well with. We were putting together kitchens and bedroom furniture and carrying stuff, and was physical activity that I was quite able for, and it had great memory. So that's what I'll go back and do. So I'm back, apprenticeship, back to the start at 4 years apprenticeship, did that. Then some personal things happened in my life where I couldn't continue that. Then we had a financial crash. We were all out of work, and my wife was like, "Why aren't you just like you come home from work and pull computers apart for fun just to put them back together or replace bits and do things? And why don't you look into doing that as a job?" And then I kind of went, "Oh, okay." Again, an external influence. I wouldn't have thought of it myself with the single-minded focus. And she said, "Why don't you go and do that?" So I went, okay, looked into it, and then kind of had some conversations with friends who were like, "Yeah, you should really do that. That'd be great." And off you go. So I went back to college doing the an access course, and school wouldn't have been my favorite time, but as life went on and perspectives moves on, and I found ways to make, particularly maths. I didn't have a great relationship with maths, um, to make maths more interesting. And when it did, it became like my favorite thing ever, just to figure this out and figure out that you can put these puzzles together and then you can check that you're actually right. You don't have to, it's not like English or French or something that can be interpreted by different people. You can check that your answers are right, which is really exciting for me. So I was like, brilliant, this is my thing now. And then led into computer science and then into a career in tech where I was a not very good Java developer. I'm going to admit, but Java is what you learn in college, and that's the way through. So I was a little, you know, disheartened by that because I wasn't getting as much out of it as I thought I would. Then I discovered Python and the DevOps and security, and then it was like, oh my God, this is amazing, and this is where I need to be for the rest of my days. And well, until I find the next thing that grabs a hold of me and grabs my interest, and then I can't let that go. So that's my path to where I am, my journey into the tech world. It's actually been quite well documented on by a woman I did an interview with, to my journey into tech, to talk about, as an older person. I mean, to my journey into tech as an older person, to encourage more people to go back to college if they have the talent or the want to do it, or the interest in doing it. Go back to college, university to study technology, any of the STEM courses, particularly anybody that's would be underrepresented, or the ladies don't tend to be represented so well. So we have a big women tech makers part in Galway that we're really proud of. So we're really happy to talk to anybody about that. We really want to encourage more people into STEM and tech. But I'm digressing again, which again, this is the neurodivergent thing. Hey, idea, let's talk about it. So, so that's who I am and how I got to where I am in my professional life right now. Is everybody still with me? Can all still hear me? I can see private chat, but I don't see anybody in the comments. Anybody want to say hello? Can you still hear me? I've got a comment. Whoa, look at that. Hi. Thank you very much. It's really weird talking to a screen with nobody there to react from. Okay, so unveiling the things I hide. I think this is why you're all here to see this talk if you've tuned in. So my experience with dyslexia and ADHD. So I'm not I can't do the reading um, on cue. I can read fine. It takes a lot of effort. Like I have to really concentrate, and I go word by word, and I have to understand each word. And then often, if it's a longer sentence that's not punctuated properly, I'll lose the meaning and I'll have to go back and start again and try and fill in the punctuation to get to understand what it is. Like I can do it, but I never knew that that was a problem when I was younger. Like we had a friend who had it way worse than me. Like we'd be reading comics, and I'd make it to the end of the comic page, just slightly after my peers or the guys I was with, but he'd be like an extra half the length that it took me. So when you're comparing yourself to people who possibly have it worse, you go, "Oh, I'm fine." You just get on with it. At least that's what it was in my experience as a child, with no one to tell you different. You just kind of get on with things, and because because of the sporting thing, they in school they weren't really paying that much attention to your academics. And my mother, bless her, if she's watching this, Florence Renton, has spent long, painful days at the kitchen table making sure I could conjugate my verbs in Irish, and making sure that I could pass my spelling tests. And bless her, she didn't know that dyslexia was a thing, until very recently, that when we're discovering it with my son. So without any external input, you're in a world by yourself going, this is just normal. So that's normal. It's my normal. So I just get on and find ways around it. I think I've become pretty resilient because of it. Um, and I've had times where I've got hurt feelings, and I've probably not reacted the best. If where had I known other there were other things at play, it would have explained things a little easier. Oh, this is why I'm having this behavior, this reaction, and these things. But hey, honestly, it's been a good journey, and I've done okay, and I don't mind sharing the story. Although it's really weird talking about yourself. I'd much rather be speaking about someone else. I'm not sure if that's a neurodivergent thing, or if it's like an everyone thing, or if it's an everyone thing, but I'm just feeling it maybe a little bit more, which is another thing. There's no book for anybody, but when you're slightly off, slightly different, there's no path. You can't Google search it. You can't go, hey, is this a thing that I have to worry about, or is that an everyone thing, or is it just is there a subsection, like a subgroup, subspecies of neurodivergent ADHD dyslexic people that have this particular thing? Uh, uh, because is it just individual, or is there clusters, groups? How does that work? But sure, without a larger study, I don't think we'll ever know. Maybe the large language models will be able to answer these questions if we give them enough information. So that's it. That was I only told half of that story. Go back. I can't go back. Can I go back? Yes. We leave the little masks up on the screen. So that was dyslexia, ADHD. Honestly, I'm only finding out bits about this now, looking at past behaviors and having to interact with my older son, who's handling it quite well. Tends not to want to engage with it because it's pain. He has his assistants, and I'm kind of listening in, go, oh, this is a thing. But I have noticed that a lot of if someone's got a hand, you can just jump in. You don't need to put up a hand. I can hear you. Oh, good. Is that old messages coming through? I can't tell. If you want to jump on stream with me, hosts, you can. It's no problem. Just jump in when you need to. No? Hello? Yeah, I can't hear you now. I can't hear you. Private chat. I feel your pain. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we're just letting you know, so there will be comments that will be popping out on the screen that are coming from the stream. So if you see them, there might be some delay, a quick delay. So yeah, but we will be sharing them on the screen so that you can read them as well.
That's no problem. I just saw them coming in. I was like, oh, kids, have I done something wrong? What's going on here? It's okay. Thank you for jumping in. Appreciate it. So the ADHD thing, I'm still discovering what that means, but it's answering a lot of questions, or a lot of they weren't even questions. They were like, oh, that's odd. So and I'm really, when I was doing that Google search for the start slide to introduce myself, there was some things I've done in my life that are really cool. Like no one else has done these things because I don't know why, but I get the idea in my head and then I just go, that's amazing. I'm going to go do it. And then I just fully engage and it's single focus and I go and do it. So we created, me and some of my buddies, well, me and I recruited my buddies to create a tech conference when we were in college called Synapse, and that was amazing. I was really hoping that picture come up, and then I had a buddy, Dave, who came up behind me. He was a couple of years behind me in college, so I said, "Hey, you run this when I'm gone," and he did. So it lived on after I was gone, and it got even bigger. And we had like Google, we had Microsoft, we had Salesforce, all coming to Galway from the other side of the country in Dublin to put on a show in our college, and it was just it was cool and one of the best stories, just how much effort went into it. But as soon as, and here's the bit about the ADHD, we got that done, but it was a lot. There was a lot of effort on a very very small team. So afterwards, when everybody was like, "Yeah, it's done. We're gonna go and celebrate, and it's amazing," I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to bed now." That was it. My tank was empty, but I had been at high level entertainment. I call it doing the dance. I'm not sure if anybody else who would be um, neurodivergent would have that mode where you can go to and you can do the dance where you're on full entertainment. Let's go, let's get everybody moving, and everybody's coming along with you, and then you but you've used your tank, you've used a lot, and that's it. After that's gone, you're wiped, and you can't even English anymore. So that's been one of my things with ADHD, and I'm probably taking bits from latter parts of this talk. So just in case I've run out of things to say in different bits, I've already told you. That's the secret. Also, I got married on a TV show. How many other people have done that? I mean, we our oldest child. You saw him in the opening pictures as well. He um he passed in 2020. So we wanted to get married before he passed. He had a very serious genetic condition. So again, when you're looking at someone who has more needs, like a lot more, you tend not you go, I'm fine. I'll just get on. So he had a lot of needs, and bless him, he was one of the best behaved of my children, and but bless him, he passed in 2020. So we wanted to get married before he passed, so he'd be in our wedding photos and all that stuff. But I was in college at the time, so we didn't have any money. So we applied to Don't Tell the Bride, the TV show. So you can Google this, and we managed to convince them to let us get married on TV on a TV show, and that's how we got married while our son was still alive. So I'm putting that down to the whole dyslexia and ADHD. That was they probably got us that, and I'll tell you why in a bit. I'm actually going to steal someone else's work for that part. So I'm just going to move across. So power up. This is we're talking about the power ups. So the superpower within. It is like I've said some. I've kind of let you in on some of the little secrets. Then I've used my dyslexia ADHD get things done, do things that probably not very many other people have done. When we look at, and this is the piece that I'm stealing from another those stupid short form videos. I can't engage. I had to delete TikTok. I knew straight away that that one was gone. I would be sunk if I were engaged with that sort of media. I'd have to go. But I still, got the YouTube and the Facebook one. But anyway, one of them is going to feed into this. So I was looking at this guy going, and he's up on stage going, I don't care, I've got ADHD and dyslexia. What that makes me is dyslexia makes me I can see patterns. I can see patterns in work. I can see patterns at home, and I'm going, yeah, I see that too. I know, and I'm wondering why other people don't get it. Why don't you get here quicker? But because they haven't seen the pattern. And then the ADHD means I have boundless amounts of energy, but only for stuff I'm interested in. I went, yeah, that's me. I can do that, and it is that thing where I'm interested, engaged. You can work all night, all day. Let's get it done. Bring everybody with you and just keep going. But when it's something drops off that edge, when you've solved the problem, when you've lost the spirit in it, you go, oh, that's it. That could take another 6 months to finish. Where the hardest bit of solving the problem probably took a week. It's just getting that energy back up to engage with something that you're not that doesn't interest you anymore is really tough. So it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, getting my like I remember a story. We ended up going to. We were still in college. We went to a launch for a company that was in Dublin, and we travelled from one end of the country to the other to go to this. So we were at a Salesforce show. Then afterwards, there was a party and a barbecue, and then we had someone with us who was one person removed, so they came with someone I knew, and they were like, "Oh, I'd love to go and see the corporate boxes," and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So call over one of the organizers, going, "Can we do this?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, cool." So off we went up to see the corporate boxes, and they're like, "How did you do that?" I went, "What do you mean how? You just go and ask." And they're like, "But how do you just go and ask?" And I was like, and then the person who was in between, who knew me and this person, kind of went, "Oh, that's just Dave. This is just things that happen when Dave's here." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know." Because I never had that perspective. I just thought it was normal that you could go and do things like that, and what's the worst that can happen? But apparently, not everybody does that. Well, I knew then that not everybody did that. So hey, more superpowers. Bring someone who's got ADHD with you. You'll have a great time. So embracing vulnerability. And I do want to get to this one. I know I've only got 7 minutes left because I've been chomping through this time and telling you useless stories, which is again probably the ADHD thing that's going to get those stories out there because I'm up and using from the tank because this is an important talk. After this, I'm going to be wrecked. Probably you'll see me in the panel discussion, and it'll be tough to get me to have a bit of crack. But anyway, this is my company. Well, not my company, obviously. I just work here. It's Genesis, and one of the things I really like about Genesis is they're an empathic company. They preach empathy for us, their employees, and for customers, which really speaks to me. And I like to have that north star going. I know if I'm going the right way because I can go. Oh, I don't know what to do here. Is this empathic? Yes, no, and I know where I'm going. But and I've discussed this talk because it's my first one on neurodivergency. I've discussed it with some other buddies of mine who have their documented, stamped, sealed, approved neurodivergent papers. They've been in the system for a time, and another buddy who's also on a discovery journey. So I've showed them this talk in the outline, and this is one of the bits where they've gone, "Oh man, this is going to be hard for you to push this thing of embracing vulnerability." Discuss the importance of openness in the workplace, and they're going, "Now we've been told to hide this for so long that you're not going to convince people to say go into work and go, I am neurodivergent," because they're not going to do that. They've been hiding it for too long. It's never going to be a thing. I was like, well, okay, but I'm still going to talk about it because I think I've found great success in speaking to my boss and in our one-to-ones and also on calls where I'm feeling this just too much. And I think our last speaker talked about the dyslexia paralysis, too many decisions all at once, was it? So when I've struggled with that, I like to be really busy. So I'm like, my line to my boss is, I'm happy, engaged, happiest when busy. Give me work. Um, I like to be really busy. But sometimes when a stopper comes in there and then that work starts to pile and then I start feeling that I'm letting people down, which I think that's a common one for ADHD. You feel like you're letting people down, you'll work even harder to get it done, and then you work later, then you're tired starting, and then it has a bit of a negative cycle. So breaking that, going to my boss and going, look, this is what's happened. I'm pissed off at this thing and it's upset me, and then I've let some stuff pile up which is also upsetting me, and then um this is how I want to get through this. So what needs to be done now, what needs to be done later? I'm glad you think it's relatable. Thank you very much in the comments. I did find that was I was told by my buddies that this was going to be a hard one to push, but sure we'll keep going. I know this isn't going to resonate with everybody, but I think it might strike a chord with everybody. But not everyone's going to agree with the way I did things, and that's fine. You do you. I'm just saying what worked for me, and maybe it didn't work as well as I think. Maybe I just think it did, and I got through it. That's also a thing because we don't have an open book to go, oh, this worked. We can't. It's not like maths. We can't go and check it's right. So let's move swiftly on because I've got 3 minutes left and I'm only halfway through. So we will go. They're facing challenges. I think we've discussed a lot of the challenges that I faced, but this I have a weird thing where I don't mind being the center of attention, so I can host a meetup like the guys in GDG Edinburgh here are doing. I do it many times for Galway Athlone. I don't mind being on stage, what I get weird about praise. It's really uncomfortable, and I've had to learn how to go, thank you, and then that's it, and walk away. It's weird being publicly praised, and I don't know, I don't like it. I didn't never knew why. Has anybody else had that thing where they just don't like, they don't mind being center of attention, but they don't like the praise bit. Public speaking, again, I don't mind at all being up on stage. Like today, we're doing well, although it's weird not having someone to talk to. Even in the little bar at the bottom, I much prefer to play off a crowd or being able to interact with people. I love the in-person meetups that we run in Galway and in Athlone. Love to do those. Um, as long as I don't have to read, because I'll start off fine, and then it'll get beyond the memorizable level or distance, and then I'll have to go like this and read every word, and then I feel like I'm sounding like a robot, which makes it worse, and then we're off down the rabbit hole. So that's how do I get on with it? I tend to over prepare. Oh, as Bill Gates said, over prepare and then wing it. So that's what I've got. I've got a kind of script here, uh, and that I'm sort of following that follows the slides. So 5 minutes left. Okay, we will move swiftly on. This is very important for me. Mentoring. I mentor a lot of junior people coming through, and I am being mentored by multiple mentors. I think it's really important. I mean, mentoring, especially when you're slightly neurodivergent or full on neurodivergent, and you don't know if it's a you thing or a neurodivergent thing or a both thing, that's you maybe feel it worse. Have someone to speak to. Go and how do you get a mentor? Best takeaway from this talk: how do you get a mentor? Go and ask them. Get someone you admire, and you go, I think you do amazing work. You're super smart. Can you mentor me? I will buy you a coffee once every 2 weeks. And we'll have a chat about work things. And it's not, you keep it to work things, and you use that to enable yourself. You get a guide. That's all it is. It's a guide that's been on the road before you. They don't even have to have the same neurodivergence. You don't have to have any. They just have to be in your business, but not in your reporting chain. So not your boss or your boss's boss. Someone outside of that you think is smart and has you admire the work they do. Go and say, can we have a chat? It doesn't have to be a permanent thing. It can be done once. If it's more than once, it's better. You can get to know each other, but get a mentor. You will come back in a year's time and go, thanks for that advice, Dave. Amazing. 5 stars. Definitely recommend. Sorry, I'm going to skip through. Here we go. Concluding thoughts. I love this picture. 10,000 foot view of New York. It's a wonderful picture. You can zoom right in on it as well. It feeds my needs a lot when I'm flicking through and seeing patterns and things of that in it. Anyhow, 10,000 foot view. I know I have certain issues. I think everybody has issues. Everybody has problems with doing things, and some things come easier to certain people than they do to others. Do I think the whole world needs to stop because I have an issue? No. Could certain things be made easier? Yes. LinkedIn could definitely put a spell checker in there, because I feel like a child with crayons when I'm trying to type messages. Uh, I have to take it out and put it into Word, make sure I've spelled everything correctly or that it makes sense, and then put it back in there. But I can read it and it'll make sense. So they need to do that. Someone needs to send them a message. We need to get a mentor. Everybody should have a mentor. Have someone to talk to. Think of it as cheap therapy. Go and do that. So I am out of time. My friends, colleagues, countrymen, if anybody wants to have a question, you can jump on with me or you can ask in the chat and I will do my best to answer it. Other than that, you can find me on the web here, as I have been found many times. So thank you so much, everybody. I'll wait till the next speaker jumps in before I'll try and keep you entertained while that's happening. Private chat. I feel your pain with dyslexia. Yeah, I know. It's been a pain, but hey, we've got through it, haven't we? We've met it, but we do get to see patterns that other people don't see, which makes us invaluable.
That's absolutely the same. The last thought is exactly. I also really like the part when you said, "Well, people just say, well, but that's just Dave. That's how
Yeah,
he is." Like, but yeah, it's absolutely unique ability for the mind to see to say things, to connect things that others just don't. Like, how did you do that? Why would you even think about it? Yeah, that's that's all. I think, that quite relatable for the people with ADHD, and yeah, and most probably for.
Do
So we
I?
do have a question. Yeah, we're just going to check all our platforms, because we're streaming on 3 sources, and double checking if we do if we have any questions. So we go one question. Um, right. So we do have a question from Letty. Letty is also copying the questions from Baby platform,
Yeah.
where all our GDG community has joined us. Yeah. So any advice or any strategy that again comes from your personal experience that can help people with dyslexia and ADHD?
No, I'm a child in this era. I'm still discovering what it means. I've only recently, like, because I'm 44 now. So I was born in 1979. So when I was in school, they didn't really, you just went to the slow class. There wasn't extra help. So when you moved on, you just uh, got on with it, or didn't, one or the other. There was no extra help. But that's only a recent thing. So I think there's probably a lot of people my age, maybe a little bit older, possibly a little bit younger out there that have very slight, not learning difficulties, learning alternatives, learning different ways, learning better in different ways, that are out there that haven't been diagnosed, but probably should have a little bit of help, or probably should know themselves a little bit better. I think that's my strategy, is just to know myself better and what works for me and what I should avoid. But talking will help. Talk to everyone. And I'm burning up your